So, welcome everybody to this month's Dinner with a Doc. My name is Dawn Hutchins, and we are so excited to have Susie Spell with us. She is a nurse practitioner and holistic health coach, board certified in lifestyle medicine, and actually double board certified in both family practice and lifestyle medicine. And she has additional training in behavior change. So she's committed to helping people prevent, stop, and reverse chronic disease. My name is Dawn Hutchins. I'm the owner of a company called Veggie Cooking. So I'm a plant-based chef, and I am joined by Heather Borders, my co-host.
Hey guys, good evening. My name is Heather Borders, and I am a registered dietitian here in Jacksonville with company Kailo Nutrition. And we are so excited to have Susie here today and talk about one of my most favorite pastimes, sleep.
Mine too.
So welcome, Susie. We would love to know a little bit more about you other than I apologize for, after all these technical difficulties here, trying to get myself situated. So thank you so much for your patience.
It's okay. No worries. No worries. So as she said, my name is Susan Spell. I go by Susie. Just sounds more fun. So I have been a nurse practitioner for 16 years. I was a nurse for 5 years prior to that, and I've been in healthcare for 29 years. And when I say that, it's really kind of shocking for myself, but I discovered lifestyle medicine by accident, or maybe it really wasn't by accident, a few years ago. So a few things happened all together that kind of culminated in this new passion I have. One was I was having my own medical journey with a multiple sclerosis scare. So I call it my MS scare. So I was going through an evaluation for that just personally. And at the same time, I was working in a corporate clinic, and I gave a patient who was an employee his cholesterol results. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've never seen cholesterol this beautiful in all of my life. And he kind of challenged me, and he said, well, I lost 60 pounds on a plant-based diet and totally reversed all of my numbers. He said, have you never seen Forks Over Knives? And I said, I know that movie exists. I've just never watched it. And he said, well, you want to keep doing this? You better go watch it. So I went home that night and I watched it, and I was like, mind blown. So then it just so happened that my employer is a corporate roundtable, or was at that time, a sponsor of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. They still are, but they were giving a discount to go to the ACLM conference that year. So I went, and the information that I heard there just blew my mind. And this came at a time when, I was kind of burnt out with the pills and procedures model of care that we have. And I was hearing all this science that has been there for a century, and I thought, where has this information been? Why did I not learn this in school or in my training? Because I went to a pretty decent school and was raised up as a nurse down the street, and a really in a national institution as well there. So I thought, wow, I thought I had a really good foundation, which I do or did. But this information just blew my mind. And then the icing on the cake was that evening they previewed a movie called Code Blue, What Your Doctor Doesn't Know Will Shock You. And this is about Sarah Stanstick. She's a physician who was diagnosed with MS in her residency. And it would just really hit home to me because I was struggling, and I saw what she did with her life to reverse her disease. You're going to have to watch the movie. My husband really loves that one too, if you're into documentaries. And he loves it. He's not medical, because he feels like it pulls all the elements together in a really nice way that's understandable. So I saw that and I thought, oh my gosh, I was on a mission to really bring it into my corporate center. Had a lot of difficulty doing that. And it's been kind of a journey in getting lifestyle medicine and whole food, plant-based or plant-powered nutrition kind of to the masses, I guess. I really do feel like people are looking for something different. But as far as my own story goes, that's kind of it in a nutshell. So I was committed to lifestyle medicine and bringing in a little bit more of a holistic perspective, which is why I did a mind, body, and nutrition coaching curriculum for health coaching. Did that to add to my practice. And I started a business. It's a health coaching practice called Vital Transformations. I started a podcast to go along with that called The Return to Vibrant Health. So I still run lifestyle medicine groups. I'm still in clinic a little bit. And so I'm kind of straddling both worlds, the health coaching world and being a nurse practitioner, and trying to infuse it into my practice. So does that answer your question?
Yes. And I actually just watched that Code Blue movie last week, I think. My mom has MS. So I can't believe it's been this long, because I've thought I had seen every plant-based documentary out there, but yeah, that was a new one to me. And what a great documentary for anyone that has MS or really any chronic illness.
Right. It was really good.
Yeah.
And it just came at the right time for me.
For sure. That was that. And what I guess I haven't heard your full story. So what an inspiring story. How cool as to how you came across plant-based nutrition too.
Yeah, those things happening in personal and professional life at the same time. Yeah.
It's really great when, you learn from your patients, they can really teach you so much.
Well, and to be open to that, because I think that there are a number of medical providers maybe not open to what their patients are bringing them. But I try not to be that way. I try to be very open to what they're bringing me. Now, maybe it's something I believe in, maybe it's something I don't, but at least I'll stay open and, just really at least explore what they're bringing, because they're online too. Information is everywhere. So
yeah, that is so impressive.
Yeah.
So the next section is the recipe, and you sent out a forks over knives barbecue burger. So for anyone that's new to Dinner with a Doc, Heather and I typically will make the doctor's suggested dinner recipe that's their favorite. And so here's my burger, if you can see it.
Looks good.
I have
I'm jealous.
asparagus. And so I actually it called for quinoa, but I had brown rice already cooked, and I had, instead of black beans, I had red beans already cooked. And then I had made my own barbecue sauce for a previous veggie pizza recipe. So I kind of was able to put all these elements together. So that's how I changed up the recipe a little bit, but I love my plant-based burger. So yeah, but I usually don't do the barbecue with it. So I'm really excited about that. Heather, what about you?
I was going to say, so admittedly, I was traveling this week. I didn't get in until 12:30 this morning, so no barbecue burgers for me today. However, I made some barbecue burgers not too long ago. And I think one of the things I did, something very similar to what Dawn did, was I don't think I used quinoa. I think I used rice, and I added a little bit of cooked potato as a binder. And but I did use the black beans, and I think an interesting twist on yours is the tahini, which I don't think I've thought of doing that with black beans and barbecue. So I would like to try that one day. But what I love about these is that, like we always talk about on this, like interviews, is how you can change it up. Like if you don't want black beans, you can do another bean and it's going to work just fine. It's the flavor that really matters and really gives it, makes it taste good. And you can put it in a wrap. It doesn't have to be a burger. And you can, make them and crumble them up and put them on a salad or something.
So that's what I do that too. Yep.
And then also, you can make a bunch at one time and just freeze them, so that, as we always talk about during these Dinner with the Docs, one of the most common questions is, how do we do this? Cooking takes so long. What about when it's late and you need to do something? Well, if you have these burgers in your freezer, then all you have to do is put them in the microwave. And so really, really nice to have on hand last minute. So
yeah. So Susie, why did you pick why is this one your favorite?
Well, it's one of our staples. So as we were going along this journey, I had to find, or I ended up finding a handful of recipes that the family likes and that I like. And I just thought, when I first started, that veggie burgers were just something you were supposed to have or eat or have in your arsenal of things. And I had tried so many, in different places, different restaurants, and I just really didn't find one I liked. And I was involved with learning about forks over knives and on their website and in their meal planner. And I just found it and I liked the ingredients. I thought, well, I'll try it. And it turned out to be my favorite one. It's better than any that I've tasted elsewhere. So I also often have brown rice made. So that's what I used. It's good with quinoa or brown rice. Either way is fine. Yeah. And it's easy and, my
Yeah.
husband likes it.
Just it's delicious. The burgers are our staple in our house. Usually we do the black bean, but for sure we're a huge burger family in our house too.
Mhm.
So, okay. The next question, and before how we kind of work it is, we'll have you tell us a little bit more about maybe your plant-based journey, and then you'll have about 20 minutes or so to talk about sleep and how nutrition and lifestyle impacts sleep. So we'll kind of open the floor up to you, and maybe even tell us a little bit about how when you first went plant-based, kind of the changes you had to go through in your practice and with your family, and then we can go into the sleep part.
And I'm
Okay.
also really interested in your health coaching and behavior training. Like what did you do and what did that entail?
Oh yes, the behavior for sure.
Yeah. I'm curious about your personal experience and then your professional training that you did on your own to kind of get where you're at today.
Right. So I spent a long time, probably over a year, looking at different health coaching programs. And there's a prominent one around called Well Coaches, which is great. They also have a lifestyle medicine track, but I already had the lifestyle medicine certification. And I wanted to pull in the mind body piece because even from the beginning of my practice, I used to think if your mind's not right, your body's not right. And that's how I thought about it many years ago. Now I know there's, of course, this connection of mind body. It's not separate. I mean, we separate things in our medical world into these different buckets, but they're not separate. So I really wanted to understand that connection a little better and how I could help people, ask provocative questions, or not even provocative, not to provoke bad feelings, but to have people reflect on their own behavior, because you have thoughts and beliefs which lead to feelings, which are actually related to chemicals that go on in your body, and how that leads to behaviors, and it's all a cycle and all related. So I really wanted to understand that, and maybe even more so understand that for my own self, because sometimes I was like, why can't I get in bed early, or like, why can't I stop eating at night, or like whatever the thing was. I've even had little confession, but I used to be a smoker, so that was really hard to stop smoking. Why behavior change is hard. Everybody wants change, but nobody wants to change. So how can I help people in that, to do that better? Because I felt like in my practice as a nurse practitioner, I could tell people or a patient something, but bless you, but it wasn't really, it didn't go very far if I couldn't spend a little more time with them. So, since I had gotten into lifestyle medicine, I really wanted to also understand nutrition coaching. And I found it's called the Mind Body Food Institute. It's actually out of Australia. And I did their program. I debated a lot because in our country, we are now having a little bit of reimbursement for nationally board certified coaches. And this program I did doesn't really allow me to sit for that board, but at some point, how many more letters can I put, or certifications, or or board certifications? I just really wanted to help people in a way that felt fulfilling for me and for them. So does that satisfy that a little bit? Yeah. Okay.
For
Yes.
sure.
And then my own journey. So when I first heard all this, I thought, right on, I'm going to do this. Right. So I went home and I started eating spaghetti and bagels. And then I gained weight and couldn't fit in my pants. And so it was very little veg. There was some fruit, but I would say a lot more processed, food. And I ended up gaining some weight. So and I didn't feel very good. So I had to learn over time how to make that a little bit better. I thought I just threw my hands up and I thought, forget it. I'm just going back to meat, veg, potato, or whatever starch for dinner. I'm just going to go back to that. And I thought, no, I'm going to be committed because I really wanted to reduce potential for myself for chronic disease, but also the neurodegenerative ones because they're awful. My mother passed away of Lou Gehrig's, which is ALS. Her sister had MS. My granddad had Parkinson's, and I had this MS scare. So I thought, I'm just going to figure this out somehow. And I forget how I came across it, but I did come across a Forks Over Knives meal planner. And that was a lifesaver for me when I started, because I just paid the $40 or whatever it was at that time for 3 months worth. And they gave you the meal plan for the whole week. You could switch out recipes if you wanted. If there's something you didn't like, you just switch it. So you had full access to their recipe box. You could create it however you wanted. And then it gave you the whole shopping list and the whole prep ahead list. Like if you had time on the weekend and you could prep ahead, it gave you all the things to prep ahead, have ready in the fridge so that, if it's after work time and you're trying to go fast, you don't have to be chopping vegetables or whatever. So that to me was a real lifesaver. I will say, I admit that I still struggle some. I'm probably not as great at it as Dawn or Heather here, but still on the journey and really trying to have the approach that I heard Dr. Katz once say, which is just think of it like the choice I'm making now. Is this an up-leveled choice? Is this a better choice than I would have? So I try to take that approach and give myself a little grace. Plus I have 2 teenage kids who were raised on the standard American diet, a husband who was born and bred in rural North Carolina on, fried okra and sweet tea, so it's been a bit of a journey. Actually, he did it the best, I would say, to begin with.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
my husband's still not there, but he's
yeah.
much better and he eats what I cook at night. So I think that's made a huge difference
Right.
in overall health.
Right. And so I do think that it's helpful when the people around you, especially in your home, are supportive. If they're not, you can still do it, but it was helpful. My daughter was on board. My husband was on board. My son, not so much. So he's gotten better, I would say, but it's still a little bit of a struggle. And, it just really highlighted for me what kids are up against when they go to school with a quote healthy lunch, and their friends are, poking fun at them for having something healthy and not eating Takis and drinking Gatorade. It's really a cultural thing, especially when it comes to teenagers. So that was an eye-opening kind of experience.
Yeah.
But.
For sure. We did get one question before we talk about sleep, about the reimbursement for health coaches. So Beth Ann was wondering, are you saying there's a reimbursement for health coaches, but not the health coaching you obtained? And are well coaches reimbursed?
Yes.
Hopefully
Yes,
adding.
I know what she's saying. So
Okay.
if you go through a well coaching certification, you will be eligible to sit for the national board exam for health coaches. If you pass that exam, then you're nationally board certified, and you could work for yourself, or you could work under the umbrella of some other institution or medical practice. And there are certain codes that are billable as a health coach. I think it's less than 5 codes, but there are some codes, and I don't think they're that well reimbursed. So of course, us in the medical community figure out how to get paid the best. So sometimes when you're working with a medical provider or under the umbrella of, let's say, like a Baptist Health or something like that, there may be a team of people that work together that bill a higher level and can do a little bit more. I hope that makes a little bit of a sense, maybe.
Yes, she said thank you.
Okay. All right. Good. Good.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about sleep. And then afterwards, Heather is going to kick off our kind of rapid fire questions, which kind of get a little bit more into the behind the scenes tips and tricks.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have about 20 minutes or so.
Okay. Well, I don't have any slides or anything. Is that okay? I don't have.
Okay. Yeah, not many people do.
Okay. So I of course have I've always loved sleeping, I love sleeping, and I have this perpetual lack of sleep, or did. And when I think about nursing school, I was sleeping 4 hours maybe. It's just really, and then when you start to think about it and you think about our physicians that are in the hospitals and pulling 36-hour shifts and things like that, and what we know now about sleep, it's really, I think we need some changes when it comes to sleep. So when it comes to sleep, and because we're doing this, and we're focusing on nutrition, I really, I discovered something called chrono nutrition. And so I want to start first with, just what normal sleep might be. I'll get to some tips later, some takeaways if you want to improve your sleep. But I want to start with like what the normal sleep is, and then what circadian rhythms are, and what chrono nutrition is, which is fascinating. And I've learned a lot just in exploring this topic for this talk. I mean, I knew some anyway, and then I've learned so much more. So we used to think that sleep was just something you did and it was kind of a waste of time. Now we know that so many things are happening when we sleep. It is so important for your health for so many reasons. There's a lot of repair and regeneration that goes on in pretty much every body system. Nowadays, there's a lot of talk and scare about Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And now we know that there's something in the brain called the glimpse system, which it's like taking out the trash. It's a way to take out the trash at night. So if you're not sleeping long enough, you're not taking out the trash from your brain, and then you can make those little plaques that can cause Alzheimer's, which can contribute to that condition. So, that's just one example. But so many different things happen. It's a very dynamic process at night. And when you look at a normal sleep pattern, if you're looking at like brain waves and things like that, when you first drift off, that's lighter sleep. Then you go into like that moderate stage, and then a deep sleep, and then you come back up. It ends up looking kind of like what I call a cityscape. And as the night goes on, those deeper sleep and REM sleep and dream sleep get longer and longer as the night progresses, which is where DNA repair happens, memory consolidation. So if anybody thinks about a night when they didn't have good sleep, just think about how you felt, right? You felt pretty crappy, probably. You're more irritable, you're more quick to anger, you crave, a biscuit or a cinnamon roll, right? Instead of some strawberries and oatmeal. So you definitely have things that happen when you haven't had a good night's sleep. And the average for adults, if we're talking about adults, sleep changes over the lifespan. Of course, we know babies sleep a ton, right? Like 16 or 17 hours. But when you get to be like 18, you should be sleeping somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 9 hours, with an average being about 8.5. Ideally, we would get in bed, 9:30, 10 o'clock, and sleep till about 6 and wake up naturally, right? So, and not with an alarm. So other things that happen as the evening is coming on, I'm sure most people have heard about melatonin, right? That is a hormone that starts to increase in the evening, and then it peaks overnight, and then it's going away in the morning. And then in the morning, we actually have a cortisol spike, which some people know that as a stress hormone, but to kind of get us ready for the day. Blood pressure goes up, heart rate goes up. And, that happens in the morning as melatonin is going down. So there's a number of things I've learned circadian rhythm wise. So when we think of the circadian rhythm, to kind of pull back from just sleep, so a circadian rhythm are things, the way that our bodies the patterns we have throughout the day and night. And there's so many now in 2017. So we used to think, so let me back up a minute. We used to think that we had just one central clock in our brain, and we do. It's called the central, the suprachiasmatic nuclei. So it's this place in our brain, kind of above where our eye tracks go, and they cross in our brains. It's right above that. That would sense light, and that was what set everything in motion. And that's partly true, but what we know now is that there are clock genes in every cell. So every cell and in every organ, we have clock genes. So the person in the brain, yes, that one is the main clock, and it's kind of like the conductor, helping coordinate everything and get everything situated and right. But when we're doing, and that can be, it's entrained by light. Okay, so early morning light is the most powerful thing that you can do to set that clock time so that in the evenings you're ready for bed. Okay, but all these other things that we can do, especially things like physical activity and eating, also are what we call entrainers. Like they can entrain those clocks. They can entrain the peripheral clocks and help entrain the central clock. And when those are out of sync, then we have issues like metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes. So I would say the most research is around people in like shift workers, right? They tend to have more obesity, more hypertension, more heart disease, more type 2 diabetes. And I worked night shift for a number of years. So and you just feel bad. And when you're working night shift, you don't even realize how bad you feel until you're not working night shift anymore. So when we take into account the circadian rhythm, it's like we are really part of that light, almost like a, so I have some training also in Ayurvedic practices, which is this beautiful ancient Indian medical healing system. And the way that I've heard it described is that we have 50 trillion cells in our bodies that are like in this cosmic dance, right? So things happen in our body, even down to our microbiome. Certain microbes in our gut are active at certain times of the day, even though they're in the dark recesses of our gut, which also plays a role in everything. Your liver has clock genes. So all these things are really important, and we're just starting to figure out how it's all connected. There's a lot of stuff we don't know. But when I was looking at all of the info about chrononutrition, which I think has grown exponentially in the last probably 5 years, maybe 7, which is not very long. It takes 15 to 20 years for new information to go, what we call bench to bedside, meaning the research is there and then we're actually doing something with it in clinic. So, and when there's a lot of question marks, it's a little bit hard, but what we do know is that at certain times of the day, I'm going to give you a couple things. First of all, you can have those cravings, right? So if you've had a bad night's sleep, you do crave more of that refined sugar and flour kind of stuff and high fatty food. So those you're going to crave more if you've had a bad night of sleep. The other thing is there's a natural rhythm to your insulin sensitivity. And this is some of the stuff I've learned just looking at this as I was preparing. So your insulin sensitivity is highest and best in the morning to midday. Then that fades off. And as melatonin starts to go up, your insulin sensitivity goes down because you're supposed to be preparing for bed, not eating. So the other thing is that the same meal in the morning or at lunch, you're going to burn more of those calories when you eat that food earlier than if you eat it later. And so those are some interesting tidbits about how we can adjust our day. And what's interesting is that the ancient Ayurvedic way of scheduling your day includes your biggest meal at lunchtime. You have breakfast, you have your biggest meal at lunch, and a very light dinner, preparing for sleep at night. And everything, even the peristalsis, which is the way that food moves through your gut, slows down at night. Most people aren't getting up to go poop, right? I mean, you're like usually doing that in the morning. I mean, there's a circadian rhythm to pretty much everything. Even people who are working night shift and are having trouble getting pregnant, then they switch to day shift, then they get pregnant. I mean, there's a circadian influence for, I think, every single body system, every single one. And it's really important to have that quality sleep, and especially to have sleep, which is an opportunity for me, between 10 and 2 is a really great time to be sleeping. So really having a practice that allows you to get in bed and to sleep by a certain time. I have teenagers who just naturally kind of want to stay up later. And as a mom, I kind of chose as they were going along to stay up and chat with them because I'm a night owl. So some people are what they call morning larks and some people are night owls, which is kind of genetically programmed. It's you know, but that doesn't mean that you should be staying up till 3 just because you're a night owl, you know. I mean, maybe there's a more predisposition towards that, but that doesn't mean you have to stay up that late. But so I was kind of interested, like I said, in how all this plays into our eating, how it plays into our cravings. And so it's really, there are some metabolic things that we can pay attention to, and maybe knowing those things will allow us to make certain decisions. And when people, there's a lot of really good mouse studies too, but when people are eating like a third or more of their calories in the latter part of the day and into the evening, those people tend to have higher BMIs and more chronic disease. So really the best thing is to shift it as much as you can to earlier. And then there's a concept of, is my time okay?
Yeah.
Concept of intermittent fasting and time restricted eating. So when they're doing animal studies, they call it time restricted feeding. So you might hear that too, but in humans, we're supposed to be calling it time restricted eating, which is different than intermittent fasting. Time restricted eating is really the intention to eat at a time that aligns with the circadian rhythms so that you can get all of those things back into sync so that you're metabolically and everything is just healthier. That's the whole purpose of time restricted eating. And actually in that model, you would eat more of the food, your daily food at the beginning part of the day. Intermittent fasting can look all kinds of ways. Some people do every other day a 24-hour fast. Some people do 2 days in a row of a fast. Some people, have a 4-hour window where they eat and then 20 hours where they don't. So it can look a variety of ways. I think at the minimum, we all should have a 12-hour window at night or overnight where we're not eating, so that all that repair can take place. Because if your body is busy digesting food, regulating your insulin and your glucose and all that when you're going to bed, it doesn't have time to do the other things and go into fat burning mode and clear out all those proteins and things from your brain. So you really do need that. So, what else can I tell you about sleep?
Can I just throw out a question real quick?
Yes.
Can you speak to what's going on when you have the people who fall asleep easy and wake up in the middle of the night and those that struggle to fall asleep? Can you kind of describe the difference? So difference there?
Right. So what you're asking about is problems with sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there are over 100 diagnosable problems with sleep. And I have that same question, Heather, and I've heard a few different things. Some people, and this is where I think Ayurvedic practice and understanding can be helpful. Some people in that system of healing, we're supposed to understand our body type. Some people are what we call vata, which means a lot of movement, air, ether, and a lot of thinking. Those are us that are thinking all the time or anxious, lots of thinking. Those people tend to have trouble falling asleep. But then the people who are more what we call pitta, which I think maybe you had Rashmi on, I think she might be more pitta, like very task oriented and, like a schedule and that kind of thing, lots of fire. they tend to be the ones who are waking up more in the evening. I'm not exactly sure. And kaphas, I'm a kapha, tend to sleep very heavy. So, but I don't know exactly what's going on with it. With the falling asleep, that can be incredibly multifactorial because our modern life impacts that for many reasons. Light exposure, for example, LED lights. So things from your phone, your computer, any kind of screen, even LED lights you might have as light bulbs are suppressing melatonin, which makes it harder to fall asleep. If you've had any kind of stress, that can impede falling asleep. So any number of reasons people have a hard time falling asleep. Sometimes we call it insomnia. Insomnia is trouble falling asleep, staying asleep.
I definitely find I'm very sensitive to looking at my phone before bed, and I almost have no choice to put it down in the vicinity of at least a half hour, and an hour is better before bed.
And there are some things you could do. And some people, I was just listening to something that was talking about some people, like the whatever receptors are on your eyes, some people are more sensitive that way than others. So it is variable as well.
Yeah.
There are a couple things. Insomnia and obstructive sleep apnea are a couple sleep-related problems that are huge in our modern day. Back when we were connected more with the earth and we didn't have the light bulb, and those kind of things, we really didn't have as much problem. And they've even done studies where they take people out camping, and you can't have your phone, you can't have anything. And even if you're just camping for a couple of days in the natural rhythm of the day, that your body recalibrates and you'll actually go to sleep as we expect in the evening and wake up right before dawn, just naturally. So, which is kind of fascinating. But
I've also heard temperature has something to do with it too.
So I will tell you, let me get to my little list here of things that you can do to improve your sleep, because a lot of this stuff is on there. And what Heather was talking about with the being sensitive to light, there is something you could do. There are some apps you can put on your phone or your computer. A lot of them come with it now that naturally dims the screen. You'll notice it becomes a little bit more orangey, so to reduce that blue light exposure, and it will do that naturally, or when you tell it to, you can do that. Some people actually have blue light glasses that they put on, and the ones that are more of a yellowy orange tint are going to be a little better for that. So some people will wear that late in the afternoon into the evening. They'll do that. I will tell you my little list. I'll tell you of things that you can do. There's what we call general sleep hygiene. So people that anybody, whether you're having a problem or not, that are good ideas to do before sleep. The most important is to set your day up correctly. So getting that early morning light, either looking towards the sun, not into the sun, but maybe just offset from the sun, so you get that natural light in your eyes. But setting a normal bedtime and wake time. So ideally between 9 and 10 to go to sleep, and wake up between 5 and 6 is kind of ideal. Now, lots of people can't do that, but even if, let's say you do 11 to 6 or something like that. Exercise is great, because if you're more active during the day, you're going to be more likely to have better sleep at night. However, you don't want to be exercising within about 3 hours of going to bed, because your body temperature can go up. So in natural sleep, your core body temperature actually goes down. And another thing you could do to get your core temperature to go down, which doesn't sound quite right, but I'll explain why, is you can take a warm bath. So if you take a warm bath, and hey, throw some lavender essential oil in there, and that might be even better. It actually helps, like when you take a warm bath and you see your skin is kind of red and flush and you feel kind of hot, but that heat is being radiated off your skin, but the core temperature inside is actually cooling off. So that would be a nice thing to do. But whatever you do, just pick a few things that you can create a routine around. Turn off those screens. Like Heather was saying, 1 hour is great. Actually, 2 hours is probably even better. You want to limit caffeine. Some people say noon because it can really take a long time to get out of your system. So either limit caffeine by noon, maybe 2 o'clock, and then same thing with napping. So with napping, either don't nap, that's a great idea, or if you feel like you need a nap, only 20 minutes, which I know is hard to do, and before 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because you have what we call sleep pressure that builds through the day. And when you take a nap, it's like you just let all that pressure off. So you definitely want to nap earlier if you do need a nap. Try to avoid nicotine if you're smoking, which I already confessed that I was a smoker. It's hard to stop, but you can do it. There's resources out there to do that. Avoiding stimulating medications. You may know some things like Sudafed, like a decongestant that you would get for a cold. So I'm getting over a cold, which maybe you can tell, but like if you take that Sudafed in the evening, it's going to disrupt your sleep because it's a stimulant. Creating that routine of just even turning down the lights. When we think about what we do with children, if anybody has a child, we kind of dim the lights, do low stimulation, we read a story, you're getting them ready for bed, but we decide not to do that for ourselves. So it really is important to also do that for yourself. There are a number of things that you could do, especially to kind of add on to that. So melatonin is something that there are supplements out there, and it is really great for a couple of things. One is to shift your sleep onset a little earlier. Like let's say I go to bed at 11:30 every night, but I kind of want to shift it back towards 10. You can start with 0.5 milligram of melatonin, which you can buy the 1 milligrams and cut it in half or whatever. But like you just start with a little bit, maybe around dinner or so, and that will actually trigger your body to produce more. But you can kind of increase that upwards a little bit if you want to. But that helps to shift the time of sleep earlier. It's also good for jet lag, so that may be one thing you could use for jet lag as well. So that is one thing. There are other things like I mentioned, lavender, I think. Some people use glycine. I've never used that, but some people use that one as well. Sometimes just the essential oils might be helpful. Some people have those diffusers, and that a book I was reading, some people feel like it's helpful. Now, whether it's really helpful because it's doing something metabolically in your body, or if it's just relaxing because it is, because of a placebo effect, for lack of a better term, whatever the reason, if it makes you feel relaxed, that's great. Other things I really like that I haven't seen in the literature, but even there's a number of apps, but something like sound healing kind of music, that low frequencies are sometimes helpful. I often put that on in the evening time, spending time in nature, especially in the daytime. There is something called heart math or even just breath work. And the way that you can use your breath to help emotional regulation and to engage that part of your nervous system that helps you calm down. So there's a few techniques to do that. One is called box breathing, where you breathe in for 4 to 6 seconds, hold it for 4 to 6, let it out for 4 to 6, and hold again 4 to 6. And you just do that a number of times. Another way is to deepen your breath so that you're taking a breath in for 5 or 6 seconds and then accentuate the out breath, whether you push it out faster and or make it a little longer. So like 5 or 6 seconds in, 6 or 7 out. There's another technique where you can breathe in for 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. So that's the way I think Andrew Weil came up with that one. So there's a number of things that you can do, even using your gaze to engage the peripheral vision helps as well, because these are the things that are connected up to that part of your nervous system that helps you calm down. And for heart math, they have a free program. You can go through it. It's really easy. It's very amazing. It's I think it's experience.heartmath.com. It walks you through little videos on how to breathe, which is the technique is really imagining breath coming in and out of your heart space and then connecting it with a really good restorative feeling, a gratitude for someone, something, some place, and then being able to hold that for, a minute to 3 minutes. And if you do that a few times a day, it doesn't have to take long. Over time, your set point for that being keyed up is going to go down, and you're going to be able to have much better emotional regulation and stress management, which then helps your sleep. So HeartMath actually has a little book, an ebook that you can buy. I think it's $5 or $6 on their website, all about sleep, which is similar to the things I'm telling you about. Those are a number of tools, and it's just a matter of you finding what works for you and your lifestyle. But probably the most important thing is making it a priority, because I do that over and over. I make it a priority and then it slips back off my radar because there's other pressing issues, so other things to do in your bedroom. So in your bedroom, bed for sleep and sex only. Don't have gadgets in there. A cool temperature is really good, somewhere between 65 and 67, which is often a little lower than what we set our AC at. So really low, which is why sometimes people put their feet out of the covers. You're trying to cool that core body temperature. So cool and dark, very dark. If you do have an alarm clock in there, turn it so you can't see it, Some people like to put little night lights or motion detected night lights, which I've heard. I have the white ones, but I've heard that some people are using red lights because that's not as activating, and I would especially put that in bathrooms, because if you get up at night, to go to the bathroom and then you flip on these bright lights, it's one of the brightest rooms in the whole house, so being able to navigate your bathroom or anywhere else during the night if you do get up. I think that covers some of what you guys were talking about. That's a long laundry list of things.
Yeah, I took notes on all those for everybody. So
Yeah.
And I do have them written down. I can send it to you. I also did send you an ebook you can share with people that has a little recipe for an evening kind of tea, an Ayurvedic tea you can make, and a number of different tips just like that as well.
okay.
Awesome. I think we have a little bit of time left. Do you want to do like a rapid fire questions?
Sure.
All right. So what are your favorite local restaurants to Jacksonville, and what dishes are your favorite?
Okay, so I don't go out that much, but I love True Food Kitchen, and I get some kind of kale salad thing that they have. I love that. I also, our go-tos, especially when we're traveling or on the go, are places like Panera and Chipotle, which are also committed to some sustainable practices. But when I go to Panera, let's say, I'll get one of either their Mediterranean or Baja Bowl. I don't get the meat on top. The protein is in the bowl. So I do like that. And I usually ask for extra arugula. So I like that. And when I go to Chipotle, I do get a bowl. I tell them tons of veggies. I don't get cheese on it, but I do get a little bit of what they call sofritas, which is the tofu, along with black beans and just lots of veggies. So that tends to be a little salty though, so those are mine out and about.
Yeah, those are all good. We like those too.
Yeah.
What's your favorite minimally processed packaged food product?
That's a hard one, but I will say I will confess to the one that I have in my cabinet most of the time, which is the Bare Naked granola. But what I do is I mix a little bit of that, and then I just take regular organic oats and mix it with it. So I'm not eating as much of the processed.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So if I don't want a hot cereal, which I often don't. So.
All right. So, what is your favorite plant-based money hack? Like, how do you save money, when, just within this lifestyle?
Okay. There's two ways really. So one is shopping at certain places, which would be Aldi and Trader Joe's. And then the second is having a plan. So having a plan for what you're going to eat for the week and prepping ahead so you're not wasting food. And you buy what you need, so that's what I would say.
Yep.
Oh, and Walmart has a really good, depending on which Walmart you go to, has a really nice organic section and has a lot of options.
Yeah, and they do, especially over Publix, I have noticed some of the same sort of organic brands. Like, my daughter Gabby likes the natural almond butter. I think it was almost $12 at Publix, and at Walmart it was $6.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I know it is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What about your best time saving hacks for eating plant-based?
So I still love the Forks Over Knives meal planner, because having the plan and batching some things. So batching things, but when my daughter's around and her friends, like, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make double of this, and then all of a sudden it's gone. So I do attempt to batch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you, Susie, because I'm trying to build out an app that focuses strictly on batch cooking.
That'd be
and
awesome.
making it streamlined. So I would love to get to you, and honestly, anybody here on the call, if you want to see a sneak peek and offer feedback, I'll put my email here, and I would love to have you just take a sneak peek and offer feedback. So
I love it.
all right. So you asked about time hack. And so what's your best advice if someone wants to move towards plant-based foods, move towards adding more plant-based foods in their diet? We know, knowing what to do and then doing it is two different things.
Well, I would say usually when I talk to people, we come up with a few strategies. I usually have a couple of suggestions. One that Dr. Neil Bernard uses a lot, which is to take 7 days and just write down all the plant foods you already eat, because you're going to notice that you probably eat some anyway. And then one option would be to just add more vegetable. You can just do that. Or another option that people tend to like is deal with one meal at a time. So breakfast is typically the easiest. If you're eating sausage and eggs, you can buy some of those mason jar things, make instant oats or whatever. There's a lot of things you can do for breakfast. It seems to be a pretty easy switch. So, and just get that down, take 2 weeks, 4, 6, whatever, and then move to lunch, so, and then move to dinner, because, that's a hard one too. Or you could do another technique of meatless Monday, and
Love it.
And do that. So various options depending on what they can do.
Yeah. And I think it doesn't necessarily have to be overnight. I mean,
yes,
there are a lot of different doctors out there that kind of want to do this immersive program, and it can be really challenging to basically learn an entire new way of cooking and a new lifestyle overnight. I wasn't able to do it. I'm impressed by people that can do that. I'm really
impressed. Clearly I was eating bagels. Like that was mine. That's what I did. Yeah.
Okay. So your website is vitaltransformationsllc.com, right?
Yes.
And then you have your amazing podcast that I love listening to.
Yes, and you guys were both guests, so yes.
Hey, you have some great guests on there.
Yes,
don't I?
Very good taste.
Yeah.
But what other passion projects is the podcast your main passion project right now? What other passion projects?
It is, but I'm also in a mentorship right now to create a course. So I'm creating a course all about heart health. And so that will hopefully be launched probably February, which is Heart Health Month in our country. So I am doing that. Okay.
Awesome. So will that be on your website? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then our next question is, I kind of already answered it. So Heather, I'll just,
So, I mean, I think this is pretty much it. I think that we kind of ran to all the questions.
Yeah, just social media is Vital Transformations LLC.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another passion project, I guess you could call it, is figuring out social media.
Yeah.
So when you go from being a medical professional to trying to put yourself out there, that's another thing I'm trying to do.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not easy.
No.
They have a business. One of my businesses is doing that, and it's still always changing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
does anyone have any questions as we are wrapping things up? And Heather, do you have anything else you'd like to say as well?
I've just always been a professional sleeper, and I don't know if there's something to this or not, Susie, but some people think it's good discipline kind of thing, but I really feel like literally since I was a child, if I didn't get a good night's sleep, I became sick immediately.
Oh, it
And
does. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's like, I don't know, feeling really drunk and hungover after one beer. I don't know. It's like, it's enough to make me be like, I need to go to sleep. And even like when I was in college, I could stay up late and, hang with everybody, whatever, but I'd have to sleep the next day. Like I would never do that if I had to get up early. Like it was just not physically possible. I feel like not getting a good night's sleep is the equivalent of a bad hangover for me. So I don't know. My body is just like, you're sleeping, go to sleep.
which is good, because a lot of us just disregard that message.
I don't know.
But
I'm not functional.
it really does, though, affect your immune system too. Like I said, the circadian
Yeah.
rhythms affect everything, and your immune system. People will get sicker when they have less sleep, especially chronically.
Yeah.
I don't know. And some people are just more like that. And I think when you're younger, you have some more resilience around those crazy hours than we are when we get older, for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This was amazing.
Yeah.
I took
You're
a ton
welcome.
of notes.
Hopefully people can
And
get some sleep tips and
yes.
understand just how important it is for our health.
Yes, thank you so much. And if
Yeah.
anyone thinks of any questions afterwards, you can always email them to me and I can forward them on. But yeah, we really appreciate your time.
And thank you to those who came and got logged in. So that was great. And anybody who watches in the future.
Yeah.
Thanks, Susie.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Have a great night, everybody.
Okay.
Bye.